Welcome back, but it is now time. Look into my eyes. What do you see? It's DeMuslim and Pig casting the next best of 3.
Oh my, I feel like a spell's been cast upon us there. Thank you so much, James, sending us over. Not only have you guys been waiting for a while for this series, but we have eagerly as well. It's Trap up against a Lambo, European Zerg against the absolute best Protoss in Korea right now. This is going to be a barn burner of a series.
This is going to be insane. Like, a lot of players can go up against a guy like Trap and think like, oh gosh, he's so good, he's a Korean, like, how am I going to do this? But yeah. I think Lambo's one of those guys that's so confident in himself, like, that going up against anybody, it's just a chance to prove himself. And yeah, this is going to be a cracker of a series, I do believe. And to get on with it, spawning in the bottom right as our blue Protoss, it is Trap. That is Lambo.
And there he is. And of course, here he is, the guy we just saw on camera up in the top left representing Clash. It is a Lambo. You know, I had a good chance to chat to Lambo yesterday. He said he has only been practicing Zerg versus Protoss for this bracket. He said there's 2 guys I got to worry about. It's Trap and Deer. He said, you know, if I've got to play Ragnarok or something, well, I hope I can pull it out. But he says, I've studied all of Trap's games. I'm super prepared for that series. I've also studied a bunch of Deer's games. You know, I'm well prepared. He didn't give anything more away than that, but I'm definitely looking at Lambo here and seeing, are we going to see specific kind of timing attacks, or is it going to be the defensive adjustments? Is he just going to look to kind of get a good read on Trap's moves and work his way ahead from there? I'm not sure, but only time will tell.
Being fair to Lambo is just complimenting him, honestly. Like, he really has rounded out his play a lot in a lot of ways. I know for a while, like, a lot of European Zergs had that kind of Snoot-esque feel to them, that they just defend and do the same builds again and again. Last year, or the year before even, when Lambo really started breaking out, he started whipping out these 2 base all-ins in ZVZ and stuff with like the creep highways and stuff. So really started mixing up his play a lot, and he's a lot harder to read, and overall he just got more well-rounded. Going up against a guy like Trap, though, this is a guy that you can study, but it's also a guy that he's going to do stuff that you've probably played against, because everybody likes to copy Trap, right? You copy the best player in the world, but he's just going to do it a little bit better than anyone you've ever played against before.
Yeah, he is so tight. I mean, Trap, the guy who popularized the Oracle Phoenix harass years after really he'd been doing it for such a long time, renowned for his control of the Oracles, the Phoenix, his ability to harass with those paired up with Adepts, second to none. And it does really skill check the Zerg player. Their opening has to be incredibly tight.
And a Stargate opening for Trap on Nightshade here. Also going for a pylon block here at the 3rd base. He knows the exact timing. The Zerg does take it. Lambo is here with a few lings, does shut down that pylon pretty darn quickly, and starts his 3rd base. Ooh, getting Overlord speed just to be safe here. He wants to know what he's up against Trap.
Yeah, and that of course does mean cancelling the ling speed there. It means you're not going to have that maneuverability and ability to shut down Adepts on the map. So if Adepts get over there, I mean, I would say technically you might even actually just want to rush an Oracle across the map with 2 Adepts as the best thing against this, and it's going to be Oracle first here. I mean, Trap is one of these guys, he does often like to get 2 Adepts over, and even if you got ling speed, they're not able to get surrounded, because every time the lings surround them, the Oracle rocks up, turns on its laser beam, and those lings have to retreat. In this scenario, it's going to be very quick Oracle, very quick Adepts poking about a little bit. The Overlord, though, we'll see it. Lambo should be prepared.
It almost feels like he didn't need the Overlord speed for that Overlord to get in, right? Like, it finished as he hit there, but I guess he does get to keep it alive for sure. But upon seeing that Oracle darting across the map, he now knows what he's up against. Spore Crawlers start immediately. Are these a little bit too late? I think they might be nicely timed, actually. The Queens are in good positions too, and he's just not taken any damage so far.
Yeah, you know, I think this is perfectly timed by Lambo. I wouldn't mind that Spore Crawler in the main being up and to the right, just a slight little midge, as that right-hand side of the mineral line is where those Oracles are going to come in from, and you've got to pull those drones very far back to safety, so I wouldn't be surprised if this first one gets 2 or 3 kills.
But a decent pull by Lambo. Are you a little bit surprised that he doesn't have like an Overlord at the 12 o'clock position kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a hole. He'll definitely fill that one up in the near future. If he leaves that any longer, it would be a massive mistake, but Overlords on the edges, spotting where those Oracles are coming from. One of the things Zerg players got a lot better with in recent months, ever since, of course, that assembly tournament where we saw Stats take down Serral with triple Oracle. It hit the meta in a big way. It was weeks and weeks and months of just oracles diving into mineral lines, and Zerg's much better with the map control.
He actually darted in with the Adepts here, getting a couple more drone kills. They will most likely end up falling here, but when you've dealt like 4 drones worth of damage, it's already a decent trade for Trap. Back at home, he's been chrono boosting probes like a madman. He's got the Robo on the way and setting up his third. And these 3 oracles, there's no offensive units that Lambo can send across the map to actually cancel that third, just because there's nothing that shoots up besides the queens.
Ooh, the creep not quite connected between the bases, so these queens are a little bit slow to rotate over. The Oracle's seeing if there's any openings. Lambo locked down tight so far in this game. Now, he's been investing a lot in this defense, though. Because of that, the work account has been pretty much neck and neck the whole time. Lambo's by no means getting a lead, but he is defending very well. He's keeping his opening tight and clean. At the same time, Trap answered with a very quick third base. It's already finishing up here at the 5-minute 30 mark.
What do you think cancelling that Evo was about? Like, that, to me, signals that he wants to make the game a short game, doesn't want to invest on the upgrades or anything like that. Or maybe he just wanted to show Trap that he was trying to invest in a later game. And right now, he's piling out a lot of roaches.
I mean, he's got a Ling drop getting ready as well, I believe. We're going to see exactly what he has planned. It's a lot of queens. They are going to start marching across, but I think Trap has a head start on this. With that revelation, he sees queens start to walk across the map. It's just a mass Roach Ravager Ling Queen attack.
And look at all the overlords. They're getting into position. This is the creep highway that we were talking about, like before this game even started, in a totally different matchup, but this is going to be a pretty strong push.
It's so fast. Look how early it is. I mean, that Spore Crawler at the third going to hang on there. Good pullback on the drones. The Oracles, they haven't had a chance to put down any stasis traps, and this is all going to be about buying time for Trap. Where's the shield batteries? He's got a few sentries, shield batteries at the third base, but none at the natural, and it's going to be a push into the natural. I actually don't know if that's the right position to put those shield batteries.
But, I mean, Lambo, he can't really run up that ramp. He doesn't really have... If you run up it, 2 force fields and you're done. But these are nice starting force fields to this fight, even picking off the high energy queen here, so that limits the transfusions. But the shield batteries, they're not all done just yet, and that is a ton of Zerg.
Oh, 2 Immortals in the back dishing out a lot of damage. The Oracles come forward. Some of the queens are in range of them, though. The Ravagers and Lings desperately trying to break forward. There are so few units. If either of those Immortals go down, Trap is going to get smashed out of this game. He's got to keep those Immortals alive.
Really good bios by Lambo. He mainly focused the force fields and the shield batteries and takes down Trap in game 1 with a pretty insane push. Like, if there's anything that I can say about Lambo, these creep highway strats, like nobody else I see does them. And that makes it so hard because he's going to hit very different timings to any other player. And I doubt that Trap's ever gone up against anything like that. So it really shows what you said, that he has really been prepping for ZVP.
You know, I've seen a few pushes that are similar, but not that fast, not that crisp. Like, he had a lot of workers out, and then it was like, hey, here's a bunch of queens, here's 6 Ravagers, and then the flood behind it is just insane. The preparation coming in big there, Lambo. He had his eyes on the prize. He knew this was the match. And that's the problem that you have. If you're coming in as Trap, everybody says, oh, I know you're going to the qualification match. You're the guy that I'm going to have to prepare for. Trap, on the other hand, I don't think he was sitting there studying Lambo VODs for the last week or 2.
It's just... I'm going to praise Lambo for a moment here. Like, so he got the Overlord speed, and I kind of said, oh, that seemed a bit useless, given that, you know, you'd have scouted it regardless. And yeah, like, he would have got the Overlord out, but that Overlord speed came in handy later for that creeps highway, obviously. And then when he saw the Oracles flying in, he built an Evo to kind of trick him, thinking, for that Evo to take effect, it's going to be a full 2 minutes before you like the upgrades kick in and such. And then he cancelled it as soon as he left the base, kind of knowing he wouldn't come back in again. So Lambo, he was playing lots of mind games here, and the whole build was set up around that push. Like, he had one thing in his mind that he was going to go up it, or one strategy in mind if he played against Stargate and if he played Oracle style. And Trap, he can be a little bit predictable, you know, but that was beautiful planning by Lambo.
An excellent strategy executed to perfection. Snaps up an easy map 1 victory for the German Zerg. He needs one more to go right through to that group stage round of 24. And here we go. We're going to be launching into map 2. It's a big map, Triton. And down here in the cold bottom right-hand corner of this map, the blue Protoss player, he is Trap.
And spawning over in the top left side, playing for Team Clash, it is Lambo. I'm interested in seeing what he does this series, because if he has prepped so hard, it usually means that you don't want to play a reactive game against your opponent. You more want to dictate the pace of the game with stuff that you're bringing to the table as opposed to stuff you're seeing.
It's interesting because I guess on the other hand, I think of Lambo as a player and I go, you know, maybe he just does identify the build and say, actually, I do have a way of like being confident because I've seen your aggressive harassment, you know, and as a Zerg player, if you know your opponent's harassment, you're really confident. Maybe you say, you know what, I'll have a head start in recognizing what you're doing. I wouldn't be surprised to see Overlord speed again here. And then maybe he feels he can go toe-to-toe, but just kind of have a little bit more of an advantage because he can see the harassment coming off the smallest tells, right? Once you've studied a player, you can see the tiniest little things. Like, you're like, oh, he made a sentry instead of a stalker here. That means he's doing this build. And you can tell what's going to happen 3 minutes from then. Once you have that level of knowledge of your opponent's build orders, it can give you a huge advantage no matter what style you play.
And also we have to remember, like, when you're playing in a series, you can really play your opponent. Like, if he shows the same stuff that he did the game before, like, Trap has to worry about playing against that build again. Like, he has to play safer. He can't drone, or rather can't probe up as hard and stuff. So Lambo, with an extra life on the line, if you know, he can really throw something crazy out there, but just try and mind game the crap out of Trap.
You know, in this situation, a lot of Korean players in the past have just gone pedal to the metal with the aggression. They've said, okay, all right, you're going to catch me out with something. I'm just going to be the one to put pressure on you. I am going to use my mechanics, my experience, my poise under pressure. But Trap, in a way, he's one of the guys who sometimes I expect to just play the exact kind of macro style that he was planning to from the start. I see him as a player who's very confident making some adjustments as things go on, and already a different tech choice here on this map, Ben.
So Trap put down that Twilight Council after scouting the spawning pool, not getting speed. So I don't know if that's something that he's just like, okay, if I can hit a timing, or maybe he's just gonna do the same thing as before. But right now we have Twilight Council, Robo, like, what kind of opening do you think this is going to be, Pig? Like, he's also getting
I think Glaive Adapt. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is Glaive Adapt. Of course, there's a few options. It can be a DT drop. A little bit out of style at the moment at the highest levels. Oh, yeah.
You do say that, though, and he's built the Dark Shrine in the path of the Overlord. Now, I know that it is an old-school build, the DT opening, but not even remotely trying to hide the tech here. That's kind of crazy, no?
Yeah, I mean, with this build, it is reasonably solid, but you do not want it to get spotted. It looks like it is going to be the 3-gate version, so he's got to chrono boost a Prism out as quickly as possible, get that across the map, and he will be hitting with very quick DTs. On the other side, did Lambo cancel OV speed?
I was just about to bring that up. So upon scouting, getting a full scout off, not having any stalker to really thwart that Overlord, he cancels the Overlord speed, which is really cool. It's really smart. Why upgrade an upgrade that, like, you know, just isn't going to have any effect? You already got the knowledge and the power of knowledge, and that's really a big deal. So now he's droning up. He's getting the link speed. He's getting the Spore Crawlers as well. Just paying respect to the DTs, because, I mean, they can ruin you pretty damn hard depending on how the Protoss wants to use them.
Yeah, that Prism is now coming across the map. He's looking for a very quick warp in with those 3 Dark Templar. The DT Shrine already done. 16 Zerglings in production at the perfect time, though. Lambo seems like he has ample preparation for this build.
Yeah, and even the Zerglings just kind of darting around the map, seeing no third starting yet, but 3 DTs do warp in pretty aggressively. And Lambo hasn't sniffed this out just yet. Oh, seeing a creep tumor attacked, though. That could have sparked Lambo's alerts on the minimap, and now he knows exactly where the DTs are.
Indeed, does get a quick surround on the DTs. They try to take a bit of a fight, but they do have to pick up and head on to that main. I want to see a lot of droning and a lot of Overlords out of Lambo in the next minute or two, because he did cut a lot of workers. He's down 10 workers now because he built such a big pack of Zerglings to defend this. Could argue this is even slightly overly safe. But I like the micro from Trap. Does just kind of take out a few Zerglings, picks up and leaves. He's got a 3rd Nexus on the way very quickly. A Dark Templar going down to try and defend that. Lambo sending a few Zerglings to harass, but I think the Dark Templar will keep that Nexus alive.
Yeah, and that's really nice by Trap, even having the sentries there and the nice pylon placements by those that probe there. And these DTs are just being annoying. If he can limit the creep, it stops the counter-attack potential of the Zerg player and just makes him feel a little bit less safe with that vision being everywhere.
Here we go, the Overseer's now morphed. Wouldn't be surprised to see a morph of the DTs into the Archons in the near future. We'll have to warp in one more to make that one work, of course. And Archons, fantastic against Zerglings, not so good versus Roaches. We're going through to the mid-game stage now. The Worker lead finally starting to kick in here for Lambo.
What do you think about Blink for the Protoss here? And Aspire starts for Lambo as well. This is...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people like to swap into Mutas against Archon drop, right? Because there is no Stargate. And Blink, it kind of allows you to have an in-between response. It's not quite Phoenix, but it's also nowhere near as expensive, right? It means that if you're pushing, you can just warp in Stalkers. They become quite good versus the Mutas. Don't get me wrong, they're bad in the long game, you know, once you get upgraded Zerglings or Lurkers out. But in the mid-game, if you're able to push aggressively, the Stalker is the most versatile unit that Protoss players have.
I'm wondering about, like, what is Trap's kind of like mid-game, end-game kind of situation? I mean, the Blink's going to work out really well against the Spire, I feel, for that kind of defending. I mean, obviously Phoenix would be better. Getting a Forge now. Lambo, he's going to be doing some scouting just to find out what he's up against here, but it's definitely unusual.
A bit uncharacteristic from Trap letting that Changeling right up into the main base. It will see the Gateway explosion. No gases on the third still for Trap here, so he's got a Forge, does drop those gases as I say that. He's going to start to go up to the full 3 base saturation. Very similar economy for both sides. And of course, the Mutalisks do start up now as this Archon drop comes into the main base. A bit of lost mining time, nothing too bad. Has the Spire been spotted? I believe he has seen it.
This is a pretty scary push that Trap's moving out with. I mean, the supplies are scarily close. Normally, Zerg is much farther ahead when they go for like a Roach composition. Now, I don't know if this is kind of like a fakey just to force his opponent to make units. It feels like it's kind of that, right? The fact that he's invested in cannons and getting probes.
Probes building behind it, absolutely. I mean, if there's a cancel on the 4th, that's actually massive because Lambo is still locked on an equal economy with a Protoss player who's building good Protoss units. And this is just really frustrating for Lambo to be stuck in this relatively equal economic situation. Yeah, he's up 20 supply. It's 20 supply of Roaches. Those are not very effective units. And unfortunately, only 4 Mutas here, not enough to one-shot probes. The Shield Battery doing some fantastic work there. The 5th Mutalisk is finally here. Of course, 5 is the magic number that you want with Mutalisks. Want to be able to one-shot those workers.
Really impressive by Trap, by the way. Like, if he didn't scout the Spire, but just made those cannons in his bases, like, that is some next-level sixth sense by him. And those Mutas, I mean, they don't really get a lot done, so... an unfortunate tech choice, and we do see that he didn't see the Spire, so just kind of sniffing it. It's like, oh, me killing this 4th base, this is way too easy. I've got way too much map control right now. You must be doing something a little bit cheeky.
No more upgrades on the way for Lambo. That has me a little bit worried. It makes me feel like Lambo is set on the idea of doing an all-in. He just started a Mutalisk, by the way, and then immediately cancelled it. Obviously, he also is aware of the fact that, I let that 5th Mutalisk rally through the Archons and it went down. It's not quite as threatening, but I think he's realizing, you know what? I'm almost maxed. I don't have a great economy. I got a ton of Roaches and Ravages. I need to do something, and I need to do it soon. I think Baneling speed is the real power point here for Lambo. He can definitely buy time before then, but I think it's got to be a big Ravagerling Bane surround. If he can catch Trap out on the map a little bit, especially before these Colossus come out, that'll be huge for Lambo.
I love the choice of Colossus, by the way, against all this like light units and such as Lings and what have you, but 34 Banelings on the way. Baneling speed is just finishing now. Lambo's army doesn't get any better than right now. That is a lot of Banelings, and he's setting up a flank from 2 sides here, but Trap, oh, if he stays here, he could be in a lot of trouble.
Oh, DT's going to go up and spot it. That's really important. It's going to give him warning. He's got to land good force fields here, and I love the pullback to the left-hand side. Lambo not going to find the angle. Great force fields there, zoning out. The Banelings working their way through, though. The Protoss player very clumped up. Those Immortals falling. It might just be too much Zerg.
Oh my gosh, even the Colossus on the right side as well falls very, very quickly. He's microing with the Warp Prism, keeping that Archon alive with barely any shield, but is Lambo going to be able to do it? He's still holding down the Roach key, still making Lings.
Trap there, realized the situation he was in. That was a ridiculous amount of units that all got spent on that attack. And Lambo, remember, he's on an even economy, and even though the supply advantage is there, it's all Roach advantage. When you lose those Banelings, you spend a ton of money that is not reflected in the supply count. The units lost is just going to get better and better the more fights. like that happen for Trap. So Trap here knows he's just got to hang on. He's just got to avoid letting the Ravagerling Bane smash through his defenses.
What do you think about the Infestation Pit? Like, is that Lambo going to be just denying a 4th base, but teching up behind this? But teching up for what?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think he might be preparing for Broodlords, but that's so far away. That really isn't something he should be thinking about for quite a while. It's all about Baneling count at this point, and he's coming in. It's the same angle again, but a lovely DT backstab that Spore Crawler, not in the correct position. And now Lambo's attack gets a little bit disjointed. Half of his army goes in ahead, does manage to dodge the Disruptor shot, but a big Force of Zerg trying to force the way in.
Oh, and that Disruptor shot and all those Banelings definitely melting them down. Nice blinks away from the Banelings as well. Trap is handling this fight beautifully. The Immortal at the front, just tanking so much damage in the Disruptors.
Lord! Devastating Disruptor flank there.
Wow, very nice holding by Trap, honestly. Like, that was some pretty good crisis management by him, and he's just tied up the series against Lambo.
It almost feels unfair in that moment when you see there is just, it feels like an endless wave of Banelings coming in. But he did what he needed to. He spread backwards, he let the Immortals and Archons tank the waves, he did a really good job of kind of steadily falling back behind his structures, reinforcing. And the moment the Banelings were gone, the Roaches are not a very impressive unit. They're very short range, they all get stuck behind each other. Their damage output isn't great, so Trap weathers the storm, manages to tie up the series, and brings it just a little bit closer. But I think he's realizing that he's definitely got a player who's got some very cheeky attacks on his hands, and Lambo, it didn't work out that game, but it was still very close.
Lambo's lethal, man. Like, we've seen it, and we know his plan for this series. It's like doing these kind of acute timings and what have you. But one thing that Trap really changed that game, he was the one that went for like a way more aggressive build. It wasn't just a harassy, oh, I'm going to take a very safe third and stuff. It was, I'm going to do this very, very fast DT drop, and I'm going to dictate the pace of the game, which kind of threw Lambo off guard a little bit. It did feel like that early drone count, like 36 against the 45 probes, those kind of things, it sucks when you let the Protoss get away so hard, and then came and cancelled his 4th. He got the Mutas that didn't get anything done either. Yeah, just a different style of game, and it was Trap was the one leading it.
Yeah, I think if we look at that as well, if Lambo had delayed those Mutalisks and got his 4th base up, I think that would have been really nice. It was an odd 4th base position because that Prism was so threatening with the DTs. It was a bit too exposed, and when Trap sniped the 4th, Lambo got kind of just shoehorned into this all-in version of the Ravagerling Bane. Trap was able to read it because of that. You know, you've got to keep things flexible, keep your opponent guessing, and this man up here managed to just force his opponent into a corner in that last game. Let's see if he can do it again. Up in the top right-hand side in the blue, representing Chinair Green Wings, he is Trap.
And spawning in the southwest side of Eternal Empire, it is Lambo. Looking laser focused there.
Oh, yeah. He's got a bit of an axe to grind in terms of, you know, everyone's been doubting Lambo and saying, you know, oh yeah, Lambo, we know he's good, but, you know, his performance hasn't been... That's not the talk Lambo wants to be going around, you know. He wants it to be the same thing from a couple years back, 2018, I think, when he really was kind of taking his performance to a new level and made it to those global finals for the first time. And he's capable of doing it, so I think he's just been preparing so hard for this. He's got a lot to prove.
And you know, Lambo's a very competitive guy, as is everybody, but the fact that Clash just picked up Raynor recently as well, like, vying for the best Zerg on the team, like, right now, Raynor definitely holds that throne, but Lambo's not the kind of guy that will just sit and take that. So if he can go through and beat Trap here and get himself into the group stage as well, that would be a very, very impressive performance.
Trap here going for a very standard expand opening. It's nothing crazy in the openings. This probe, of course, just looking to occupy these mineral patches for a moment and force Lambo's drones to go mine elsewhere. If you can disrupt that, it will cause inefficiency. Your opponent's drones will naturally go and stack up on the wrong patches that are a bit further away. Lambo, though, microing against it, and this is just that little skill check that players will do at the very high level. And you can see a player like Lambo just counters it with his own stacking of the drones, making sure they stay on the correct patches. Both players just going to continue on with their game plan. And of course, the question with Lambo's build, Overlord speed, Zergling speed, it seems like he wants to have that information. He's loved the Overlord speed up to now. And I wouldn't be surprised to see it start up one more time.
Is there anything that you find as a Zerg player, or when you play Zerg on this map, that can be a little bit cheeky? Oh, Twilight Council pops down again for Trap. I wonder if that's just like, okay, the game that I played, Stargate, this guy just leapt on that, so I'm going to stick with what worked in the previous game, and we're going to go from there.
Might just be. Of course, there are some very good Glaive Adept builds that have recently come back. A lot of ones after Stargate, you know, after 1 or 2 Oracles with really quick Adept follow-ups. Always been very nice. But, I mean, that DT build, it's solid, the one he just used. It's not bad to use that exact same opening again here. It's definitely an option.
And a fairly quick Robo follow-up as well, so it could be the DTs, could be the Adepts, we'll see. I mean, practically at this point, the Protoss can throw anything at the Zerg, and that's why the Zergs often get that Overlord speed near the start of the game, just to know what the Protoss is actually going to throw at them. Ooh, 2 more gateways before any tech goes down, really.
Yeah, okay, this is a mistake. Okay, Glaives, there we go. I was going to say that Glaives needs to start up. Okay, yeah, he's pulled 1 worker off each gas in the main base. So he's going a lot more mineral focused. We are going to see a big Glaive Adept timing, a Warp Prism coming out, a very mineral focused. Overlord speed, spotting this will be huge. That Stalker does not want them to see it, but 2 Overlords coming in, 1 from the main, 1 from the natural. Stalker goes to defend the natural, and that Overlord sees it. 2 workers on each gas, 4 gateways. Lambo knows exactly what he's playing against immediately. He has a Roach Warren down. He's continuing to drone for now, but in the near future, we are going to see a lot of Roaches coming out. Queen's coming forward to intercept the Warp Prism as well.
Yeah, I feel Lambo's on a pretty darn good drone count. He hasn't been too greedy, and he's been very good about his scouting throughout this series, actually, against Trap here. Now, Trap, he will have 5 gates available, I do believe, and Glaives are finishing up. About the Observer afterwards, is that just for clearing up the creep after the push happens?
Yeah, I mean, it gives you a lot of flexibility as well, right? You can see if they're counterattacking with a lot of Roaches. I don't expect Trap to go all in with this. You know, there's definitely players who do that, where they just build Immortal sentries behind the initial, you know, 10, 15 Adepts, however many it is, and try to do a follow-up push. It's always an option, but I think Trap is going to want to take a 3rd base at some point. He's just stopped on 41 probes for now, just restarts it after warping in those Adepts, and that's a lot of Adepts with Resonating Glaives. That gives them a big boost to their attack speed. They are shading forwards.
Wow, a DT follow-up behind this as well, so Trap is definitely going to be piling on the pressure. No sign of a 3rd Nexus yet.
It's a very aggressive commitment here. It's flexible. It allows you to skill check your opponent. You can see those Adepts continuing to finish their shade. Lambo okay with that, since there was only 1 worker on that base. Will take out both of those Adepts. In return, good Overlord coverage. I mean, if we just look at Lambo's vision. He just sees these Adepts so far ahead of time. He sees the Prism. Those Queens going to go down to the edge. He's going to rotate the Queen in the main base as well. This Prism, it's going to take a lot of damage if it wants to go through there.
Lambo's definitely playing better this game than he did when he let the Warp Prism pass. And right now, yeah, he's taken some hull damage even, and that makes the Warp Prism significantly worse later on.
This is a much scarier situation for Trap than in the previous game. I mean, DTs are great as a surprise maneuver, but you're up against an opponent who has a lair and is definitely in such a good economic situation. 58 drones, Ben. He's got the 3rd base. The 3rd Nexus has just started. Trap's got to make something happen. He needs to do something to damage Lambo and slow him down, or that Zerg is just going to get out of control.
Lambo's seeing everything right now, and he's making all the right calls. I was a bit scared with how much he's droning up, but Trap's still making probes. So Trap wants this game, or I don't think he wants it to go on longer, but he has to. He's just been scouted on every front. I'm still wondering how he's going to use that Dark Shrine in the bottom right side of the map.
Yeah, you could argue it was slightly greedy from Lambo to go up this high in workers so quickly, but I mean, it's for a moment. There was only really 1 attack timing that could have punished him for it, and now it's just non-stop Roach, Ravager, Ling, Bane. Lambo's got a 4th base up on the way with a much more timely fashion than in the previous one, and this is just Lambo in his comfort zone. Tons of Overlords coming out. He's adding the gases, building up the army. Trap is going to be fighting with a much smaller force, and he's going to need to have some elite micro. I can't get behind Blink in this scenario. It's a fantastic upgrade, don't get me wrong. It makes Stalkers a decent unit, but they're a middle ground unit. And I think when the Zerg player is his 3rd up and saturated this much quicker, I think there's a little bit more pressure on you as the Protoss player to go for specialty units that are really tailored to the situation you're in.
Did Lambo just fly his Overseer over a Dark Templar, like while trying to scout across the other side of the map? Because he's so well prepared against these DTs, or in fact, he just moved his Overseer away.
Oh, good cheeky maneuvers with these DTs. Going to try and find the drone line. One gets into the third here. Another one is making its way into the main at the same time. One has already hit the natural mineral line. The Prism is there as well, being annoying, ready to extricate some of these from harm. Really good play here. Look at that. That Prism is even being micro. Trap exercising his mechanics and just exerting that power and control. 11 worker kills for a couple DTs. Not bad. A massive disruption to Lambo's economy.
That was really good by Trap, and he even got a scout on the Spire there in the main base with the DT, so not only economic damage, but he knows what he's going to be up against, and now throws down a few cannons, a few shield batteries. He's ready for a counterattack by Lambo.
I'd love to see Lambo get an infestation pit and work his way up the tech tree. I'd love to see a second Evo chamber as well. He's making a ton of roaches though. Lambo looks like he wants to finish the game in the near future. The problem here on Eternal Empire is it is just hard to get through those choke points. It's very difficult to clear out the rocks blocking your opponent's natural. There's already shield batteries going down. I mean, we've got a Trap here who is looking to just hang on for dear life on 3 base. No sign of a 4th base for a very long time.
8 mutas on the way for Lambo. He's getting the upgrades as well. +1 for melee, +1 for air weapons. 10 mutas now, so that Warp Prism will be able to be shut down, but I wonder how he's going to utilize the mutas. Disruptors as well from Double Robo. That is a great unit against this kind of stocky army by Lambo.
Trap's playing so flexibly right now. Don't get me wrong, he's still behind. He has less raw material out, but he's playing very careful, very defensively. He's countering Lambo's options. You can tell here, all series long, Lambo has been wanting to get the jump on Trap. He keeps trying to counter Trap almost before he goes down a certain path. But now Lambo going across the map is going, where's your 4th base? You know, what can I do with this gigantic roach army I've invested in? Trap has said, mate, I'm not giving you any openings. I know I'm behind in this game. I'm going to turtle up on 3 bases, and it's going to be about building the right army to counter yours.
And these DTs continue to sneak in, despite Lambo having like an Overseer and a few roaches waiting in his mineral line, but he just sneaked on by and gets more damage done, and this is nice, because now Trap, he's accumulated a little force of these disruptors, soon going to be up to 4 here. Gets upgrades continuing, and these mutas so far not doing that much.
Indeed, cannons in the main as well. A couple of workers will go down. Any trade is a good trade for Lambo at this point. Just going to take some out. Those Stalkers, of course, hot in his tail. He's got to stop turning to fight. The thing with Stalkers is they can blink very frequently, so you can't really afford to keep going back in and out, and losing 3 or 4 Mutalisks does lower the threat level. More drones on the way for Lambo. At this point, I think he's got to split off a lot of roaches and throw them away in a backstab, because he is hitting up against his supply cap hard. And that money in the bank might look nice, but I tell you what, his ground army is trash, and it's going to get destroyed if he fights Trap in a front-on fight. He really needs to find a way to trade out part of his army and replace it with better quality units.
I was just about to say, the longer this game goes on for, even though Lambo is obviously mining quite a bit more and he's got a big bank, Trap's army gets significantly better. It is just being it's just getting better, higher tech units added on. Colossus are joining as well now. We're going to have Archons, Immortals, Disruptors. It is a crazy amount of AoE damage.
I can't believe that DT Shrine still hasn't been spotted down there. That's actually just a little bit unfortunate for Lambo. DT's continuing to trickle in. But the Roach Ravager Bane finds the exposed 4th base. Ooh, the Baneling's going to go into the units there. Disruptors, of course, very threatening. Is not going to be able to snipe the Nexus.
And that is an incredibly scary army to go up against. It seemingly has the counter to everything, at least on the ground. The Immortals as well. And a nice DT warp in, just stopping those roaches from marching forward into the base.
Oh, the Mutas come over with the Overseer. They do support and end up taking out those DTs. At the same time, a DT just pulls back Lambo's attention momentarily. A few more Mutas go down. The Overseer does fall there as well. Lambo did get rid of some of his supplies, replacing it though with Zerglings right now. Greatest Spy is finishing and there's no Corruptors on the map. He is missing his timing to get out quick, surprising Broodlords, and this is a little unfortunate for Lambo. He's going to go into Vipers and Banelings right now. Great units versus the Disruptors, but this is just dragging this game longer and longer, deeper and deeper into the game, to the point where I feel Trap's army continues to improve and his chances of winning the next fight are getting better and better.
I think this was a really good, smart call by Trap, though. He knows that Lambo's trying to get rid of those units to make something better. So Trap immediately goes, aha, what are you trying to get out? I'm not going to let you. Marches immediately across the map. And this army, I don't know how you engage that with what Lambo has. He needs those Vipers out, and he needs them now with full energy.
Yeah, he's going to need to abduct every single Disruptor or to cover the Immortals and Colossus with Blinding Clouds. He also needs to come from two sides. If Lambo attacks this from one side, it is not going to be pretty. You can see he's splitting his army into the Roaches on the north, do a good job. He's lost some economy, but Lambo's still got bank, and those Banelings, remember, pack such a punch. Just the sheer number of Banelings alone is so scary for Trap. Trap realizes this, he's pulling back into the corner. He's still got some force fields to work with, and that's what makes it so Lambo really, I don't think he can force this. I think he needs to wait for Trap to come into the open.
I do as well, Pig, but if Trap fights on this ramp, there is a flank by Lambo from the south side, but these force fields are pretty darn good. The splits of the Stalkers, the Banelings rolling through, trying to blow up the army of Trap. And Trap, actually, he's way behind his supply now. This is a crazy fight by Lambo. And Lambo, he's actually pushing Trap to the limit.
He's on top of the Colossus. That last Immortal is going to fall. The Prism goes down. The Colossus are alive, but the Warp-In gets stopped. Even though the DTs come in, almost all of that Protoss army gets toasted. And what is the Remax? Roaches being built for now, but remember, Lambo's economy took a beating there. He's lost a lot of his workers. Trap is up in economy. He's rebuilding Colossus right now versus just a Remax of Roach Bane. It's going to be that low-tier, mobile, just crushing ground army with the Vipers overhead. This is looking all right for Lambo.
Yeah, Lambo's actually still got money in the bank to spend as well. 10 Roaches, 10 Ravagers joining the battlefield, plus 3 upgrades soon to finish for both these guys as well. Lambo with a 50 supply lead, and he left that Nexus so weak at the top of the map. And Lambo, he's already almost Remaxed, and the Protoss, he's left down in the 120s.
Yeah, Lambo here, he's not going to the later game. He's not using the Great Aspire. He's saying, this is my moment. I know I've got the army advantage right now. Let's go for it. The Zealots just get blasted by those Banelings. And look at that Ravager count to Muslim. That is insane.
It really is. The Vipers, he's trying to hunt down that Colossus. There is a DT on the other side of the map. Trap's trying to do anything he can, but the main fight that's going on over here, the Roaches and Ravagers, there's so many of these Ravagers. Biles are going to be landing everywhere, and they are trying, even getting the slow warp in Stalker there. Nice targeting by Lambo, and he's almost doubling the supply of Trap. This is a crazy, crazy game by Lambo.
Yeah, Trap, you can see he's microing so well, pulling back on different sides, but he just doesn't have the material, and this is the issue with those Stalkers. Lambo had that big economic advantage earlier, and Stalkers just don't pack enough of a punch here. I don't think they were the right call, unfortunately. A lovely yoink, that Colossus gets dragged into the Ravagers. The drone losses on the other side of the map have been shut down, by the way. Lambo cleaned up all the DTs in the middle of this. He's now taking out the third base, isolating the fourth at the same time, continuing to commit to more and more Roaches and Ravagers. And Trap here with just a few Blink Stalkers, desperately trying to micro his way out. But it's an impossible job.
The fact that Lambo managed to beat that army, and GG, Lambo takes out Trap 2-1. But the fact that Lambo actually managed to kill that army, that super high-tech army of Trap, and I mean, like, the positioning as well. These Banelings just rolling all the way through, dealing supreme damage to the big, juicy units of Trap's army. I really didn't think he was going to take that the way that he did, but looking at the supply, like a minute into the fight, it was like, holy crap, Lambo's actually winning this.
A beautiful engagement there, of course. Takes advantage of that momentum. And I mean, great preparation from the German Zerg. He often does like to, talk about how he does have a great understanding of strategic reactions in the past. Sometimes he's struggled to pull it all together, but here in this match, he's done it, makes his way through the winner's bracket into the round of 24. An awesome performance for him. Trap, of course, going to have another chance in the lower bracket. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be back with more matches in just a minute.